believe it or not, there are ways of discussing this hockey team without attaching everything to Mike Sullivan's departure, and I'm going to give that one a shot today with something specific. Good morning to you. Good Friday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Penguins. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates in the same place that you found this. Checking out the Stanley Cup playoff games last night, Winnipeg surviving, Carolina advancing. One of the things that crossed my mind between the two games, because all of these teams, in particular Capitals, who are now out, carry young players in important roles. And that can be dicey for NHL executives and in turn for head coaches, because they're going to get good prospects. They're going to get gifted prospects. They're going to get the types that, well, how do I put this? I don't want to make them sound like Daniel Sprong, like everybody's got to be Sprong. But they either score or they're not worth much to you, okay? And on most teams, that's going to mean top six duty or bust. And if you think about the nature of the prospects that the Penguins have brought up in recent years, they've been, the Sam Poulin types where you think he can score. You've seen some scoring in the minors, but you also see him skating around, using his size, using his forecheck to grind out offense for others. And you think, all right, well, there's somebody who can make a difference for us in a bottom six role. So if you're a coach like Sullivan, you're going to prefer that because you have guys for the top six and you'd rather not mess with that. So, final 10 games of this past season. Both Ville Koivunen and Rutger McGroarty are called up. Could not be clearer that there was some sort of stance adopted, whether that emanated from Kyle Dubas, whether it was Sullivan's inspiration or whatever. I'm going to guess it was Dubas, that, hey, listen, these kids are here. They're going to play, and they're going to play in top six roles, and they're going to play on the power plays. And so there they went, at no real great inconvenience, by the way, to the rest of the lineup. Ricard Raquel took some shifts on the third line and so forth, but otherwise it was just, and of course Evgeny Malkin missed some of those games. So there was room. It wasn't any great drama. And the fact that they both fit in really well and right away ended up making everything okay, I think. Although I don't have that information as to why Sullivan exactly would have been okay with being fired or why Dubas was okay with firing him. Might never know this. But if you think about not seeing eye to eye, which Dubas has acknowledged that they didn't, when you think about Dubas's comments about how the head coach, see, I'm doing it myself. I'm attaching everything to Sullivan's departure. Let me get past that, okay? If you have Koivunen and McGroarty, and maybe even a couple others from the Wilkes-Barre-Scranton roster of this past season, whether that's Tristan Brose, Sam Poulin, a defenseman or two, who knows? Whoever is in this mix, presuming that management feels that they have earned, and I'm going to underline in boldface that word, earned a spot on the NHL roster, on the nightly lineup, it's not known whether or not they're going to have mandated spots in that lineup. And again, by that I mean he's got to play top six or he's not worth anything to us. That sort of thing. Now, one easy workaround to that is to have a third scoring line. Or even if you don't have a third scoring line, pretend that you have a third scoring line. Just act like it. And put three offensive guys there and hope for the best. In other words, you could create like a kid line. And then from there, whatever grit and grime you're looking for, you can put Kevin Hayes on a line with, I don't know, Noel Achari, whoever. But one way or another, no matter who ends up being the head coach and no matter how amenable they are or how grateful they are to Dubas for giving them the opportunity that he'd give them, whatever this is, everyone had better be aligned and legitimately aligned, not just going along with it. I'm going to be honest with you, okay? there was a lot to like specifically about Koivunen, and I'm going to use him as the example here, not for any either positive or negative reason, but just because he played all 10 of those games and McGroarty got hurt early. Koivunen did really good things. Didn't score a goal, but did a lot of really good things. His passing, his vision, his awareness of his options in any given situation, and yeah, his hands, the execution, all of that was terrific. Could shoot a lot more, but we'll get there. That does not mean that he was a perfect fit for the Sidney Crosby line. He actually wasn't. Maybe he would be a good fit over time, but I'm just calling it like it is here when I say that you could see there were many, many occasions where Sid and Brian Rust were looking for a certain something and didn't get it. And it's easy to say, well, what do you expect? He's brand new. He just showed up here. He doesn't even know those guys. He's going to be a little bit starstruck. And I appreciate all that. But I also would like to think that I can tell when someone has some kind of meshing going on, because it happens pretty much right away. And it wasn't there. So if you're the Penguins entering the 2025-26 season with the new head coach and the new, I don't know, would you call it a new direction or just a continuation of the pre-existing new direction, I guess would be more accurate. Are you going to force someone onto Sid's line, or are you just going to say, listen, we have one of the better 5-on-5 lines in the entire NHL with Sid, Rust, and Raquel. Why on earth would we break that up? There's not a gain to be had from that, and carrying a kid isn't necessarily one of them. The kid is going to have to be able to skate on his own. Not a routine call like any of this. Do you see what I'm saying? I'd love to hear from you on this subject. Just get in touch with me. Any comment section where you find this particular program. When we come back, J1Q. This episode is brought to you by Bet Online, your number one source for all your summer sports needs this season. From Major League Baseball, golf, NHL, NBA playoffs. Get the latest odds and lines, including all team matchups, player props, odds on just about everything that's out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Bet Online, where the game starts. Today's J1Q comes from Todd Singleton, who says, hi, DK. In a city that cautiously retires the jersey numbers of its team's legendary players, there are only 16 total to date across the Pirates, Steelers, and Penguins. Will the Penguins hang number 29 from the rafters? Or I can ask it differently, would you retire the jersey of Marc-Andre Fleury? I would not. I would not. And there's no way for me to say that and have everyone who's listening to this go, oh, you know what? I agree with that. Yeah, you're right. Nobody's going to do that. Look, Flower is everything that you would hope he would be, and then that much more. Take that from someone who traveled way up in the north of Quebec to his hometown right after he was drafted at age 18 and got to spend the weekend there with him, his family, his friends. He took me all over town, and it only got better and better and better from there. Everything that you want to feel regarding Flower, multiply it many times over. Yes, he was here quite a while, and yes, he contributed to 3 Stanley Cup championships. There's only one issue here, Todd, and it's got very little to do with him. That's that the bar is at an extraordinary level. There are, of course, only 3 of these numbers hanging at PPG Paints Arena. That's 21, 66, and 68. Michel Briere died tragically young. He had been seen as the hope for the franchise's future, really talented, had a tremendous rookie year, killed in a car crash. Respect the grief of the people at the time and leave it at that. I don't feel like I need to say anything at all about 66 and 68. So what happens is that now you've got this second wave of the franchise's greatness, and you're going to have Sidney Crosby and Yevgeny Malkin be honored this way. And the bar has not budged. The bar in that context has not budged. Flower was gone. after 2017. Flower won his Vezina Trophy after he was gone. Flower wasn't the goaltender of record for 2 of those 3 Stanley Cups. Now, none of this is Flower's fault, but that's not how these things roll. So I feel very comfortable saying with immense love and admiration and everything else, no. And on a related note, there are other ways to honor players like this. Beyond the obvious that he's going to get into the Hockey Hall of Fame now, which wasn't obvious, by the way, at the time that he left Pittsburgh. Actually, hang on. I should say he was traded out of Pittsburgh. He obviously did absolutely nothing to leave Pittsburgh of his own volition. But again, there are all different kinds of ways to recognize, to honor, and to remember truly great contributors to the franchise's history. And I would put Flower more in a category with, say, Chris Letang. But what's hanging up there? I'm not getting past the names I mentioned. 21, 66, 68, 71, and 87. I appreciate the question. Really good one. Way to stick it to me there, Singleton. Wow. I appreciate everybody who listens to Daily Shot of Penguins. We're going to be back with another one of these on Monday.